go. Good. Hey out there in YouTube land is Kudos Slayer, aka Daytime Number of the Beast, and today I wanted to do another episode of converting media franchises over to the Mekton Zeta Plus rule set, and show how they could be used to world build and how to run any kind of campaign setting that you can think of. If you haven't seen my last episode where I kind of talked about some medical problems I just had and why I hadn't done a new episode, catch it later. But this is going to be kind of my attempt to get back into the flow of things. Anyway, today I'm kind of going to go pick something that's maybe you might consider low-hanging fruit. As with the other episodes that I've done so far, I've been just picking some of the simpler stuff before I start, picking something that may be a little more complex. Mainly to kind of build up a library of short episodes, or hopefully short episodes, before taking on the big dogs, as it were. This is the layout I'm going to use to describe everything, kind of break it down. This is what I used before. Also, since it's still Pride Month, get my little Pride plug in right there. And as usual, there probably will be tangents up ahead, so, rambling beware. So, today's episodes is going to be about the, basically Transformers, but as I kind of thought about it, there actually were quite a few other shows, especially during the early 80s, and a lot of anime and other toy releases during the early 80s that kind of, I think it was enough, it's similar enough that we can kind of bring them all together and discuss them at the same time. For those who don't know or weren't paying attention at the time, basically during the late 70s, particularly in the early 80s, there was a really big influx of not just anime, but Japanese toys in general that were brought over. It was almost kind of like the Wild West at the time. Not the TV show, but the actual Wild West itself. There were a lot of problems with copyright issues. Almost anybody who had, either had like an access to a ship port or bring in a cargo container, they could. They'll try to bring something into the United States to sell it in general a toy store and make a quick buck. That still kind of goes on today. I know when I go to say like Walgreens or maybe Walmart, I'll see kind of the Mars toys, or you go to dollar stores, you'll see some kind of off-brand, color changed or mispackaged or whatever, toys that you obviously recognize as being for something else. But in general, I'm going to kind of include most of let's get that better positioned. Yeah, it looks prettier. Okay, but I'm going to kind of join them. Basically, the premise I'm going to be talking about today are robots that can transform into one form or another to either disguise or have other functionality. Just a general basic premise. Transformers were the king for a while, and still, until to this day. GoBots were pretty good second for a long time, and eventually I think they got bought out. Didn't Tonka eventually sell their share over to Hasbro? It's one of those corporate lynchings right there. But But basically, and then there were Convertors, which was kind of a generic thing. Actually, I thought it was kind of interesting. Because I remember these toys, especially at when I would go to, say, like Children's Palace, Toy Box, or was it Toy? Yeah, probably Toy Box. Um, and long before Toys R Us ever came around, and even KB Toys in particular had a lot of these. And as you can see, some of these are under the Converter line were from various different series or franchises, even more so than what Transformers were. Transformers, a lot of Takamara, Diaclone, if I remember right, and there's a third name that was involved with them. That was kind of interesting. Like here in Converters, you can see this is a Ogress detonator, one of the toys from that series, and then of course we've got some of the Veritech fighter from Maricross / Robotech, and then you got some other, but most of what they did are the ones like it's a bird transformer. Here's a bat. Actually, get a better picture. There's one of the bats transformers right there. I remember having one of these, and it used to be one of my favorite toys. But most of what oh yeah, there's another Veritech fighter there. But most of what Converters had were oddball kind of stuff. They had birds, insects. There's some tanks. There's even slot machines like right here and roulette wheels. So back in the early '80s or so, they, if they can, get it over here, and put it in a blister pack, they got it over here to make a quick buck. But anyway, so like I said, if you want to do something based on Transformers, there's more than Transformers out there to work with if you're looking for ideas and such. Some of the other ones I thought about while working on this was the robotics, which was actually a line of educational toys, basically like kind of like a giant Lego in some ways, or more like probably more like Tinker Toys if you're familiar with those. But those were a pretty cool series of toys that actually moved and had motors and such. Then kind of funny one I thought of was Turbo Teen, which isn't exactly robot transforming into anything, but it was a teenager that wound up in a strange government accident that got merged with his car, which was a Corvette, if I remember right. Oh, was it a Corvette or a Trans Am? It's the 80s, probably Trans Am. But whenever he got hot, he would turn into the car, and then when he started getting cold, he'll turn back into his person. So I kind of threw that in as a kind of as an obscure reference, just for add filler. Let's see. Foundational details. I mean, this is based on a cartoon. The rule of cool is pretty much all you need to worry about. If it's cool, it works. I can remember a lot of the episodes here in America when, for Transformers and such, they tried doing all kinds of crazy things that, in a realistic setting wouldn't pass. But, we're here to have fun. And not just relive times, but build settings that are just fun. And so rule of cool is in. So I really worry too much about getting real or realistic. Okay, of course we get the favorite the mecha shtick. We're talking about giant freaking transforming robots here. What is there left to be said? And that's the shtick right there. Most of these were robots that could turn into something else. And existing rules. This is kind of surprising because as I thought about it, there's not really too much outside of the Zeta Plus rules that really wouldn't cover what you would need. Um, I mean, most of the general rules will work for creating any kind of quote unquote characters or mecha or whatever you want to call them. Um, Most of everything that you really need to add would be the stupid Mekton tricks, which is kind of, personally, I kind of am relieved of that because I've always hated skipping over the stupid Mekton trick section in the Zeta Plus book because it seemed like so much was put into those rules and so many of them don't really get applied or can be brought in for in most settings. The main thing I would go for is first scale. Scales can be kind of interesting because if you look at the original Transformers, even GoBots, there was a lot of scale shifting. Characters like in GoBots, Scooter, which was a kind of a modern version of Vespa at the time, and transforming from this little thing to a much bigger robot. And then Transformers had some of the same things, and you had fun. Giant robots that transform into much smaller cars. And that's always kind of one thing I was thinking about. When I hear, I see one setting where they talk about a 30-ton robot that's like 15 meters tall, and then when you think about, well, 30 tons is how much a Sherman tank weighed, and that was, barely 10 feet tall in itself. So it's always kind of interesting when you think about scale on that, from that aspect. But I would pretty much, be concerned about scale would be the one thing. Are these robots going to be shifting from one scale to another and such? And how much are you going to play around with that when you're setting? Of course, we've got that we covered with expanding plasma rules. The main rule I would use for pretty much designing most of everything is the OID rules, which basically is where you build a mech, and with that rule you turn it into a character. It has general stats, like the mental stats and and whatnot. It just kind of neatly brings everything together to make it as a functional character. I wouldn't worry. The nice thing about it is that you don't have to worry about internal automation, thought control, techno-organics. There was another one, actually. I meant to bring that up. I was wanting to bring up the actual page. But basically, you don't have to worry about techno-organics, internal automation, thought control, or transformable option of disguise. You do get your basic, stats that you normally wouldn't have for a mecha, and then there's some modifiers for like dealing with maneuver value and whatnot. Because basically, since they have stats, there's not really going to be a maneuver value modifier that would really come play. Kind of this kind of simple way of dealing with that. But this is just kind of really nice rule set to kind of bring everything together. Other things I kind of thought about, of course, got Transformation Gizmo. I feel like characters like the original Soundwave or the three robot team, Reflector, and the set bots and such. There's quite a few that will be covered by that. Mundane is kind of another one. Building, I mean, why not? Hell, it had at least 4 different cities that transformed into robots during the Transformer animation run here in the States. Gun, while we're at it, might as well throw it in. Dimensional storage. Yeah, it's kind of funny when you think when they used to animate the original the Transformers series. He always sees Optimus Prime roll in as his semi truck form, and then when he transforms, the trailer just kind of goes away and it's kind of forgotten about until much later when he transforms back, go home. But this would be definitely a big player in that. Movable Mecha, I guess kind of threw it in because in some ways I can see some characters just kind of being sort of a step or two over to the right of the theme. Like maybe some of the original Pretenders, which were kind of popular for a while in Transformers, so they got kind of passed over. I think that was Gen 2, wasn't it? No, I don't think it was Gen 1. But some oddball concepts could be covered by that. Let's see. Maybe I should make a warning about pauses too instead of just tangents. Anyway, and for the most part, I don't really think there's not too much. Just what we got right here should cover. Almost any general, Transformers, GoBots. Definitely anything that had a had a different kind of general plot, theme or plot. This should just be able to cover it right there. I really don't think you have to worry too much about homebrewing unless you decide you want to take your concepts to even a new dimension, instead of just what the original franchise concepts and such had. So yeah, I was actually kind of surprised at how semi straightforward this was going to be. I kind of thought I had to shoehorn or freehand something to make this work. But yeah, if you're going to do a Transformers style campaign setting, you got pretty much almost everything you need in the Mekton Zeta Plus book, just to pull that off. I kind of thought about some other ideas you probably might bring in, like instead of these being sentient robots or mechanical beings, you can always make these more like a battle suit for the pilot to run. There's all other kind of possibilities to explore, but there's potential if you are looking for such a setting. You got pretty much everything you need here, at least in my opinion. Anyway, that's kind of enough rambling for me for this particular episode. I hope this has been food for thought for you, and if you were planning on doing a setting like this, you got all your tools and everything you need to make your start. So anyway, if you got any comments or questions or whatever, leave them down below in the comments. Please subscribe. If you have any other requests, I do have a kind of a short request list I'm trying to work on right now. And unfortunately, some of the suggestions are kind of a little more complex, but they're going to be they're on the list to be worked on. So anyway, this is Kuda Slayer, Daytime Number of the Beast, signing off, and I'll see you next episode. Bye.